Sarah Chen walked into the massive dining hall and stopped. Hundreds of aliens filled the space, talking and eating together. But as soon as they saw her, conversation stopped. Eyes turned toward her, then quickly looked away. She was used to this by now. She found an empty table in the corner and sat down. The table was big enough for 12 people, but nobody came to join her. Other beings walked past her table without looking at her. It was like she was invisible, or worse, like she was something dangerous they needed to avoid. Sarah opened her meal pack and began to eat. The food was good, but it tasted lonely. She watched the other aliens around her. There were so many different kinds of beings in this place. Some looked like tall blue people with pointed ears. Others were small and furry with many legs. Some looked like they were made of living rock. They all seemed comfortable with each other. They shared meals and laughed together. But none of them came near her table. Sarah knew why they acted this way. Stories about humans had spread across the galaxy before her people ever left Earth. These stories said humans were violent and dangerous. They called Earth a death world because it was full of predators and disasters. They said humans only knew how to fight and destroy things. The stories were not completely wrong. Earth was a dangerous place. Humans had fought terrible wars, but the stories missed so much about what humans really were. Sarah was a scientist. She studied alien life forms because she wanted to understand them. She had spent years learning about different species. She came to this space station hoping to make friends with alien races, but every day she ate alone. She was about to finish her meal when the room suddenly became very quiet. Sarah looked up to see what was happening. A group of crystal beings had entered the dining hall. They looked like they were made of living glass that caught the light and threw rainbows everywhere. Sarah knew who they were. These were the Ethereals, one of the most respected races in the galaxy. The crystal being in the center had to be Princess Zarath. Sarah had seen pictures of her in the diplomatic files. She was taller than the others, and her crystal body had veins of gold running through it. She moved like she was floating instead of walking. Every alien in the hall bowed their heads when the princess walked past. Even the proud rock beings showed respect. This was someone very important. Sarah expected the princess to sit at the special table reserved for important leaders. Instead, Princess Zarath stopped walking. She stood still for a moment, looking around the room. Then she turned and looked right at Sarah. The dining hall became completely silent. Princess Zarath walked toward Sarah's table. Her crystal advisors looked shocked. They whispered urgent words to her, but she did not listen. Other aliens in the hall started talking to each other in worried voices. Sarah felt her heart beat faster. Why was the princess coming to her table? Was she in trouble? The princess reached Sarah's table and stopped. Up close, Sarah could see that her crystal skin was beautiful. It moved like slow water, changing colors from blue to green to purple. Her eyes were bright gold. "May I sit here?" Princess Zarath asked. Her voice sounded like music. Sarah was so surprised she almost forgot to answer. "Yes, of course," she finally said. "Please sit anywhere you like." The princess sat down in the chair across from Sarah. Her advisors hurried over to them. They looked very upset. "Your Highness," one advisor said in a nervous voice. "Perhaps another table would be better. The reports about this species say—" Princess Zarath raised one crystal hand. The advisor stopped talking immediately. "I can choose where I want to sit," she said. Her voice was still musical, but now it had a sharp edge that meant she would not argue about this. The advisors bowed and stepped back, but they stayed close. They watched with worried faces. The princess looked back at Sarah. "You seem to be the only person here who is not trying to impress me," she said. "I find that nice." Sarah did not know what to say. She had been trying to think of something proper and diplomatic, but the princess's honesty surprised her. "I don't think I would know how to impress someone like you," Sarah said. "I'm just a scientist." "Just a scientist?" Princess Zarath tilted her head like a curious bird. "I have heard that humans are supposed to be terrible warriors who only think about fighting. But you don't look very scary to me." Sarah smiled a little. "I think the stories about my people might be wrong." "Stories usually are wrong," the princess said. "I have learned not to believe them completely." "What is your name?" "Sarah Chen, and you are Princess Zarath. It's an honor to meet you." "The honor is mine." "Tell me, Sarah Chen, what kind of science do you study?" "I study alien life. How different species grow and change on their worlds. How they solve problems and stay alive." Sarah paused. "I've been studying your people for years. The way you can change your crystal colors to show emotions is amazing. Princess Zarath's crystal skin changed to a warm golden color. Sarah thought this might be like a smile. Most species find our color changes disturbing, the princess said. They want us to stay neutral colors during meetings. That seems sad, Sarah said without thinking. Then she worried she had been rude. I'm sorry, I didn't mean. No, don't be sorry. You are right. It is sad. The princess's colors became deeper gold with blue mixed in. My people have learned to hide what we feel because others are more comfortable that way. But being comfortable is not always the most important thing. Sarah leaned forward. This was not what she had expected from one of the galaxy's most powerful leaders. She had thought the princess would be cold and formal. Around them, the dining hall slowly returned to normal noise levels. But Sarah could feel many eyes still watching their table. Can I ask you something? Sarah said. Yes. Why did you choose to sit here? Your advisors clearly think it's a bad idea. Princess Zarath was quiet for a moment. Her colors changed to thoughtful silver. Because I am tired of being told who I should be afraid of, she said finally. And because you looked lonely? I know what that feels like. Sarah felt something warm in her chest. For the first time since coming to this station, someone had been kind to her. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? For not being afraid of me. Princess Zarath's colors became brighter. Maybe we should both stop letting others tell us who to fear. They kept talking as they finished eating. Sarah told the princess about Earth and human culture. Princess Zarath shared stories about her world and her people. They found they had more in common than either had expected. When other aliens walked past their table, they stared in shock. Nobody could believe that the respected princess was having a friendly meal with the dangerous human. But Sarah did not care what they thought. For the first time since arriving at the station, she did not feel alone. And from the way Princess Zarath's colors kept showing happy gold, Sarah thought the princess felt the same way. As they prepared to leave, Princess Zarath said, Would you like to have breakfast together tomorrow? I would like that very much, Sarah replied. Walking back to her room that night, Sarah felt hope for the first time in days. Maybe these peace talks could actually work. Maybe humans and aliens could be friends after all. The next morning, Sarah arrived at the dining hall to find Princess Zarath already waiting at their table. The princess's crystal skin showed soft morning colors like sunrise on Earth. I hope you don't mind that I came early, Princess Zarath said as Sarah sat down. I wanted to continue our talk from yesterday. Sarah smiled. She had been hoping the princess would want to talk again, but she had not been sure. I don't mind at all. I was hoping you would be here. A server came to take their breakfast order. He looked nervous about coming to their table. Sarah noticed how he kept looking back and forth between her and the princess, like he expected something bad to happen. After the server left, Princess Zarath said, Tell me about your world. I have read the official reports, but I think they only talk about the dangerous parts. Sarah thought about how to describe Earth. The reports probably mentioned the predators, diseases, and disasters. They probably talked about human wars. But Earth was so much more than that. My world is beautiful, Sarah said. Yes, it can be dangerous. We have storms that can destroy cities and animals that can kill you quickly. But we also have forests that go on for thousands of miles. Oceans so blue they look like jewels and mountains that reach up to touch the clouds. The princess's colors changed to show interest. What about your people? The reports say humans are violent by nature. Sarah sighed. We can be violent. We have done terrible things to each other throughout our history. We have fought wars over land, money, beliefs, even the color of our skin. She paused. But we have also done beautiful things. We create art and music that can make people cry. We tell stories that help us understand each other. And we have learned to be better than we used to be. How did you learn to be better? We stopped trying to solve everything with fighting. We realized that violence usually creates more problems than it solves. Now we try to understand each other first, then find solutions that work for everyone. Princess Zarath was quiet for a long time. Her colors went through several shades before settling on deep purple. My people have never known war, she said finally. We solve problems through calm discussion and logical thinking. We are taught from birth that violence is what primitive species do. That sounds peaceful, Sarah said. It is. But sometimes I wonder if we have become too peaceful, too afraid of any kind of conflict, even when conflict might help us grow or change. Sarah was surprised by the princess's honesty. She had not expected someone so important to share doubts about her own culture. "What do you mean?" Sarah asked. Princess Zarath's colors showed uncertainty. "My people have not changed our ways in over 1,000 years. We do the same things, think the same thoughts, follow the same rules. We call it stability, but sometimes it feels like being frozen." "Change can be scary," Sarah said, "but it's also how we grow. Humans have a saying, a ship in harbor is safe, but that's not what ships are made for." "I like that saying." The princess's colors became a little brighter. "Tell me more about human culture. What makes you happy?" Sarah found herself talking about things she had not shared with anyone since coming to the station. She told the princess about human music, how it could express every feeling from sadness to joy. She described human art, how painters could capture a moment or show the world in new ways. She talked about human stories, how they helped people understand different ideas and learn from each other. She explained human celebrations, how communities came together to mark important times or just to enjoy being together. Princess Zarath listened with growing fascination. Her colors changed constantly, showing curiosity, wonder, and sometimes sadness. "Why sadness?" Sarah asked when she noticed the gray colors. "Because my people have forgotten how to do many of these things. We have celebrations, but they are formal ceremonies. We have art, but it follows strict old patterns. We have music, but it is designed to promote harmony, not to express individual feelings." "Maybe it's not too late to remember," Sarah suggested. Before the princess could answer, a group of crystal beings came to their table. Sarah recognized them as the princess's advisors from yesterday. They looked even more worried than before. "Your Highness," the lead advisor said urgently, "we must speak with you right away." Princess Zarath's colors showed annoyance. "I am having breakfast. Whatever it is can wait." "With respect, Your Highness, it cannot wait. The council is worried about your friendship with the human. There are reports that she may be using some kind of mind control to influence you." Sarah felt her face get hot with anger, but she tried to keep her voice calm. "I promise you that I am not controlling anyone's mind." The advisor did not even look at her. "Humans are known for their ability to lie and trick others. The princess may not even know what is happening to her." Princess Zarath stood up so fast that her chair made a loud scraping sound. Her colors flashed bright red, a color Sarah had never seen from her before. "Advisor Kelthmar," the princess said in a voice like ice, "you will apologize to my friend right now, or you will find yourself counting supplies on the farthest mining station in our territory." The advisor looked shocked. His crystal skin flickered through several colors before becoming pale blue with fear. "Your Highness, I was only trying to protect you. I do not need protection from someone who has shown me nothing but kindness and friendship." The princess's colors were still flashing red, but now there were streaks of gold through them. "Now apologize or leave." The advisor looked around the dining hall. Sarah realized that once again, their conversation had drawn attention. Many beings were watching to see what would happen. "I apologize for any offense," the advisor said stiffly. "Thank you," Sarah said, though she did not really mean it. Princess Zarath sat back down, her colors slowly returning to normal. "You are dismissed, all of you." The advisors bowed and left, but Sarah could see they were not happy. "I'm sorry about that," Princess Zarath said once they were gone. "My people mean well, but they sometimes let fear guide them instead of wisdom." "You didn't have to defend me," Sarah said. "I don't want to cause problems for you." "You are not causing problems. They are creating problems by refusing to see past their prejudices." The princess's colors showed determination. "I will not let fear decide who I can be friends with." Sarah felt that warm feeling in her chest again. "Friends?" Princess Zarath's colors became beautiful gold. "If you want to be." "I would like that very much," Sarah said. As they finished breakfast, Sarah realized that something important had happened. For the first time since coming to the station, she did not feel alone. And from the way Princess Zarath's colors kept showing happy gold, Sarah thought the princess felt the same way. Other beings in the dining hall were still watching them, whispering to each other about the strange friendship between the crystal princess and the dangerous human. But Sarah did not care what they thought. She had found a true friend, and that was worth more than all the diplomatic agreements in the galaxy. For the next week, Sarah and Princess Zarath met every morning for breakfast and every evening for dinner. Their friendship grew stronger each day, but so did the pressure from their people. Sarah's human colleagues were worried. They thought spending so much time with the princess might hurt the peace talks if other species believed humans were trying to gain special influence. Princess Zareth faced even more pressure. Her advisors held long meetings with her every day, warning her about human tricks and lies. Other species had started asking questions about why their beloved princess spent so much time with the dangerous human. But neither Sarah nor the princess let the pressure stop them. They had become real friends, and both were learning surprising things. Princess Zareth discovered that the stories about humans were mostly wrong. Yes, humans could fight, but they were also incredibly creative and kind. They had turned their dangerous world into a paradise through hard work and cooperation. They had ended their wars through understanding, not force. Sarah learned that the ethereals, for all their wisdom and advancement, had problems too. They had become so focused on avoiding conflict that they sometimes avoided making necessary changes. They had achieved peace by making everyone think the same way. My people fear chaos so much that we have forgotten the value of different ideas, Princess Zareth explained one evening as they walked through the station's observation area. Through the big windows, they could see stars and ships from many different species. Different ideas can be scary, Sarah agreed. But they're also how we solve new problems. Humans have a saying, if everyone thinks the same way, then someone isn't thinking. The princess's colors showed amusement. Another wise human saying, your people seem to have many of them. We like to learn from our mistakes, Sarah said. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent announcement over the station's speakers. All diplomatic personnel report to Emergency Meeting Point Alpha immediately. This is not a drill. Repeat, all diplomatic personnel to Emergency Meeting Point Alpha. Sarah and Princess Zareth looked at each other with worry. They hurried to the meeting point where representatives from all species were gathered around a large display screen. Captain Thurok of the blue-skinned Valdorians was speaking to the crowd. His normally blue skin looked pale with worry. 17 hours ago, an automated mining facility in the Karis Belt had a catastrophic collapse, he announced. 63 workers from 7 different species are trapped in the lower tunnels. The life support systems are failing. The display screen showed a 3-dimensional picture of the mining facility. Sarah could see the collapsed sections marked in red. The trapped workers were shown as small dots deep inside the structure. Rescue operations are complicated by the unstable structure, Captain Thurok continued. Any heavy equipment or large rescue teams could cause more collapse. We need volunteers for a small rescue team. Several beings stepped forward immediately. Sarah was not surprised to see that most were from species known for bravery and skill in dangerous situations. Then she surprised herself by stepping forward too. The assembly went quiet. Everyone turned to stare at her. I volunteer, Sarah said clearly. Captain Thurok looked uncomfortable. Miss Chen, I appreciate your offer, but this mission requires very specific skills. I'm a scientist who studies how different species survive in extreme conditions, Sarah interrupted. I've also done rescue work on Earth during natural disasters. I know how to keep people alive when everything goes wrong. Other delegates began talking to each other. Sarah could hear words like dangerous and unpredictable and make things worse. A tall rock being named Stonus spoke up. The human's presence could make the mission fail. Their species is known for reckless behavior that puts others at risk. Sarah felt anger rise in her chest, but she forced herself to stay calm. I'm not reckless. I'm trained for this kind of work. Training cannot overcome genetic tendency toward violence, said a small, furry delegate. Humans solve problems by breaking things. This situation requires careful precision. More delegates nodded in agreement. Sarah realized that no matter what she said, they would not trust her to help. Then Princess Zareth stepped forward. I volunteer as well, she announced. The assembly erupted into shocked voices. Several beings started talking at once, all protesting. Your Highness, this is far too dangerous, Captain Thurok said urgently. Your safety is too important to risk on such a mission. If you believe Miss Chen is dangerous, Princess Zareth said in a voice that carried over the noise, then I want to see this danger myself. If humans are truly as reckless and violent as you claim, then I should witness it with my own eyes. Sarah stared at the princess in amazement. She was risking her own safety to defend Sarah's right to help. But Your Highness, her advisor said desperately, if something happens to you, Then you will learn something important about humans, Princess Zarath replied. Her color showed absolute determination. I believe Miss Chen wants to help those trapped workers, not hurt them. I am willing to bet my life on that belief. The assembly fell silent. No one knew what to say to that. Captain Thurrock looked around at the other delegates, then sighed heavily. Very well. Miss Chen and Princess Zarath will join the rescue team, but I want it on record that this decision is being made against my better judgment. As the assembly broke up and the rescue team began preparing, Sarah pulled Princess Zarath aside. Why did you do that? She asked. You could be killed. Princess Zarath's colors showed warm gold. Because you are my friend, and because I am tired of letting fear make decisions for me. But what if they're right? What if I do make things worse? The princess reached out and gently touched Sarah's arm. Then we will face whatever happens together. But I do not believe you will make things worse. I believe you will do everything possible to save those people, even if it means risking your own life. Sarah felt tears start in her eyes. No one had ever shown such faith in her before. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for showing me what real courage looks like, Princess Zarath replied. As they prepared for the rescue mission, Sarah knew that whatever happened at the mining facility, their friendship had already changed both their lives forever, and maybe if they were lucky, it might change how the rest of the galaxy saw humans too. The rescue ship was ready. Time was running out for the trapped workers. Sarah and Princess Zarath climbed aboard with the rest of the rescue team, not knowing if they would return alive. But they knew they had to try. That was what friends did for each other. The rescue ship reached the mining facility 12 hours later. Through the windows, Sarah could see the massive structure floating among asteroids. Its metal hull was twisted and broken from the collapse. Red emergency lights flashed along the damaged sections. The rescue team had 8 members from different species. Besides Sarah and Princess Zarath, there was Captain Thurrock leading the mission, 2 Valdorian engineers, a small furry Kethian medical specialist, a rock-like Granite Lord structural expert, and a Vec technology officer. As they connected to the mining facility, Captain Thurrock explained their plan. The structural scans show 3 possible paths to reach the trapped workers. We will split into teams and take different routes to improve our chances of reaching them. The Granite Lord named Petra studied the facility maps with her stone fingers. The safest route will take about 14 hours. The life support in the trapped sections will fail in 10 hours. What about the faster routes? Sarah asked. Petra's rocky face showed disapproval. The faster routes go through sections that could collapse at any time. The risk is too great. Too great for who? Sarah looked at the maps more carefully. Those people will be dead in 10 hours if we take the safe route. Better to save some than lose everyone, including the rescue team, Captain Thurrock said firmly. Sarah studied the damage reports. The other species only saw the dangers, but she was starting to see possibilities. Growing up on Earth had taught humans to find solutions in impossible situations. What if we don't use the main passages? She suggested. The facility has maintenance tunnels, air shafts, and emergency routes. They're smaller and more dangerous, but they might still be open. The Vec officer named Zix made a clicking sound of distress. Those passages were not made for beings our size. And even if we could fit, we don't know if they're stable. I can fit, Sarah said. I'm smaller than most of you, and humans are good at moving through tight spaces. Absolutely not, Captain Thurrock said immediately. Sending one person alone through unstable passages is suicide. I'll go with her, Princess Zarath said quietly. Everyone turned to stare at the princess. Her crystal body showed calm determination. Your Highness, that is completely impossible, Captain Thurrock protested. If something happened to you, something will definitely happen to those trapped workers if we do nothing, Princess Zarath replied. Miss Chen is right. We need to try the dangerous route. The Kethian medical specialist named Dr. Flick scurried nervously around the group. The princess could be injured or killed. The diplomatic consequences would be terrible. The consequences of letting 63 people die would be worse, Sarah said. She looked at Princess Zarath gratefully, then turned to Captain Thurrock. Give us emergency communicators and basic rescue equipment. If we can't get through, you can still try the safe route. Captain Thurrock clearly did not like the plan, but time was running out. Very well. But you report every 30 minutes. If we lose contact with you, We stop your mission and focus on the main rescue route. Sarah and Princess Zareth took emergency oxygen supplies, portable lights, basic medical kits, and cutting tools. As they prepared to enter the maintenance access, Sarah realized her hands were shaking slightly. "Are you afraid?" Princess Zareth asked softly. "Terrified," Sarah admitted. "But those people are counting on us." "I am afraid too," the princess said. "But I would rather be afraid while trying to help than safe while doing nothing." They entered the maintenance tunnel together. The passage was barely wide enough for them to crawl through side by side. The metal walls made ominous creaking sounds, and Sarah could hear distant sounds of debris settling deeper in the facility. The first section was easiest. The tunnel ran along the outer edge of the facility, away from the worst damage. But as they moved deeper, the signs of structural stress became obvious. Some sections were partially collapsed, forcing them to squeeze through gaps barely big enough for their bodies. "How are you doing back there?" Sarah asked as they crawled through a particularly tight section. "My crystal structure allows me to compress somewhat," Princess Zareth replied, though her voice sounded strained. "I am managing." They reached their first major obstacle after an hour of crawling. A support beam had fallen across the tunnel, leaving only a small gap at the top. Sarah studied the beam carefully. "I think I can move it," she said. "But I'll need to use the cutting tool, and that might weaken the surrounding structure." "What would the others do?" Princess Zareth asked. "They would turn back and try a different route." "That's the safe choice. And what do you want to do?" Sarah looked at the obstacle, then at her equipment, then at the princess's expectant face. An idea was forming in her mind. The kind of crazy human idea that other species would call reckless. "I want to try something that will either work perfectly or get us both killed," she said honestly. Princess Zareth's colors showed amusement. "That sounds very human. Show me." Instead of cutting through the beam, Sarah used her tools to carefully weaken the tunnel wall next to it. Then she and the princess braced themselves against the opposite wall and used their feet to push the beam sideways. It moved just enough to create a larger gap without bringing down the ceiling. "Brilliant," Princess Zareth said as they squeezed through. "You used the beam's own weight against it." "Sometimes the best way forward is not the obvious way," Sarah replied. They continued through the tunnels, encountering more obstacles and finding creative solutions for each one. Sarah would study each problem, then propose an approach that seemed impossible until they tried it. Princess Zareth proved to be an excellent partner, using her crystal body's flexibility in ways that would have been impossible for other species. After 3 hours, they finally reached the trapped workers. Sarah's heart sank when she saw them. The miners were crowded in a small chamber, breathing hard because of the failing life support. Several were unconscious, and all looked weak from lack of oxygen. "We're here to get you out," Sarah announced as she and Princess Zareth squeezed into the chamber. A blue-skinned Valdorian miner looked up at them with confusion. "How did you get here?" "The main passages are blocked. We took a shortcut," Sarah said with a smile that she hoped looked more confident than she felt. The real challenge was getting the miners back through the maintenance tunnels. Many were too weak to crawl on their own, and some were larger than Sarah and the princess. But Sarah had a plan for that too. Using materials from the mining equipment, she built a simple pulley system that let them drag unconscious miners through the tunnels. Princess Zareth used her crystal body to create anchor points and support structures. It was slow work, and several times Sarah was sure they would all be trapped when the tunnels groaned and shifted around them. But somehow, piece by piece and person by person, they got everyone out. When they finally emerged into the main docking area with the last group of miners, the other rescue team members stared at them in amazement. Captain Thurrock looked like he could not believe what he was seeing. "How?" was all he said. "Humans don't know when to give up," Sarah said tiredly. She was exhausted, bruised and covered in metal dust. But all 63 miners were alive. Princess Zareth's colors were dim from exhaustion, but they showed pure gold happiness. "I have learned something very important today," she announced to the rescue team. "Humans are not dangerous because they are violent. They are dangerous because they refuse to accept that some problems cannot be solved." As the medical team checked the rescued miners, Sarah realized that something had changed. The other rescue team members were looking at her differently now. Instead of fear and suspicion, she saw respect and maybe even admiration. It was a small change, but it felt like the beginning of something much bigger. Sarah woke up in the medical bay 3 days later. Her body hurt from crawling through the maintenance tunnels, and her hands were still bandaged from cuts she got during the rescue. But she was alive, and more importantly, so were all 63 miners. Princess Zarath was sitting in a chair beside her bed. Her crystal body showed soft, worried colors. "How long have you been here?" Sarah asked. Her voice was still rough from breathing dusty air in the tunnels. "Since they brought you in," the princess replied. "The doctor said you pushed your body beyond safe limits during the rescue. You collapsed once you knew everyone was safe." Sarah tried to sit up, but Princess Zarath gently pushed her back down. "Rest. The peace talks have been delayed until you recover." "They delayed the talks for me?" "They delayed them because half the delegates want to meet with you personally." Princess Zarath's colors showed amusement. "It seems that saving 63 lives has made people curious about humans." Over the next few hours, many visitors came to see Sarah. First came the miners she had helped rescue. Each one thanked her personally, and several brought gifts from their homeworlds. A Valdorian miner gave her a small crystal that glowed with inner light. A Kethian gave her a piece of silk that changed colors when touched. A granite lord offered her a stone carved with symbols of protection and strength. But the most surprising visitors were the diplomatic delegates who had been so afraid of her before. Ambassador Veltar of the small, furry Kethians was first to arrive. He scurried nervously around Sarah's bed before finally speaking. "I owe you an apology, Miss Chen," he said in his high voice. "My people have always believed that humans solve problems through destruction. But you saved lives by building solutions, not by breaking things." "Thank you, Ambassador," Sarah said. "That means a lot to me." "I would like to arrange a formal meeting between you and our council," Ambassador Veltar continued. "We are facing some difficult problems that might benefit from human perspective." After he left, more delegates came. The Valdorian representatives wanted to discuss human engineering techniques. The Vec delegation was curious about human ability to adapt in extreme situations. Even the proud Granite Lord sent an elder to speak with Sarah about human problem-solving methods. Captain Thurrock was among the last to visit. The tall Valdorian looked embarrassed as he approached Sarah's bed. "I was wrong about you," he said simply. "I let fear and prejudice guide my judgment instead of giving you a chance to prove yourself." "You were trying to keep everyone safe," Sarah replied. "I understand that." "Understanding the reason does not excuse the behavior," Captain Thurrock said firmly. "A good leader listens to all options before making decisions." "I failed to do that," he paused. "I would like to request that humans be included in future emergency response teams. Your methods may be unusual, but they work." That evening, Princess Zarath helped Sarah walk to the observation deck where they had spent so many hours talking. Sarah's legs were still weak, but she wanted to see the stars again. "How do you feel about all this attention?" Princess Zarath asked as they stood looking out at the galaxy. "Overwhelmed," Sarah admitted. "A week ago, nobody would sit near me. Now they want to learn from humans." "People fear what they do not understand," the princess said. "But once they see the truth, many are willing to change their minds." "Not all of them, though," Sarah said. She had noticed that some delegates still avoided her, and some species had not sent any representatives to visit. "Change takes time," Princess Zarath agreed. "But you have started something important here." The next day, Sarah was declared healthy enough to return to the negotiations. When she entered the main conference hall, something amazing happened. Instead of the usual isolated human table, she found that many species had requested to sit near the human delegation. The seating had been completely rearranged to fit everyone who wanted to be close to the humans. Ambassador Torres, the head of the human delegation, looked as surprised as Sarah felt. "It seems our strategy of patient diplomacy has been overtaken by your strategy of direct action," he said with a smile. The negotiations that followed were unlike anything Sarah had experienced before. Instead of formal presentations and careful diplomatic language, the sessions became working meetings where different species shared their problems and asked for input from others. The ethereal sovereignty was facing population growth that threatened their carefully balanced society. The Kethian collective was struggling with resource distribution across their many worlds. The Valdorians were dealing with aging infrastructure that needed complete replacement. In each case, Other species offered suggestions based on their own experiences. But more and more often, delegates turned to the human table for input. Humans, it seemed, had dealt with similar problems and found creative solutions. Sarah found herself explaining how Earth had changed from a world of separate, warring nations into a unified planet. She described how humans had learned to balance individual creativity with social harmony. She talked about human techniques for rebuilding infrastructure while keeping essential services running. Most importantly, she explained the human approach to problems. Instead of accepting that something could not be done, humans asked how it might be done differently. 3 weeks later, the negotiations ended with something unprecedented in galactic history. Instead of a simple trade agreement, the species had created the Terran Accord, a comprehensive partnership that included humans as full members of the galactic community. The ceremony was held in the same dining hall where Sarah and Princess Zarath had first met. As Sarah signed the document that would officially welcome humanity into the galactic community, she thought about how much had changed. Princess Zarath stood beside her as the ceremony ended. Her crystal body showed brilliant gold and silver colors that Sarah now knew meant deep happiness and pride. "You did it," the princess said softly. "You showed them who humans really are." "We did it," Sarah corrected. "If you hadn't sat at my table that first day, none of this would have happened." "Perhaps," Princess Zarath said, "but I think you would have found another way. That is what humans do." After the ceremony, Sarah and Princess Zarath returned to their favorite table, but now instead of sitting alone, they were joined by beings from across the galaxy. The conversation flowed in many languages, with species sharing stories and ideas and plans for the future. Captain Thurok was describing Valdorian rescue techniques to human engineers. Ambassador Veltar was teaching Cathian poetry to fascinated human artists. A granite lord was explaining rock formation to anyone who would listen. Sarah looked around the table and realized this was what she had always hoped for when she became a scientist. Not just understanding between species, but genuine friendship and cooperation. Princess Zarath leaned closer to Sarah. "What are you thinking about?" "I'm thinking about how scared I was when I first came here," Sarah said. "Everyone avoided me because they thought humans were dangerous." "They were not entirely wrong," Princess Zarath pointed out with amusement. "Humans are dangerous. You are dangerous to prejudice, dangerous to the idea that problems cannot be solved, dangerous to the belief that different species cannot be friends." Sarah smiled. "I suppose you're right. We are dangerous." "The best kind of dangerous," Princess Zarath said, her colors showing warm contentment. "The kind that makes everything better." As the evening continued and new friendships formed around their table, Sarah knew this was just the beginning. Humans had finally found their place in the galaxy, not as conquerors or destroyers, but as partners and friends. And it had all started because one brave princess decided to sit beside the human that everyone else was afraid to approach.